안녕하세요. 하투하7 캔디스 김입니다. 오늘은 머킬티오시 제니퍼 그레거슨 시장님을 모시고 시 운영 방침과 시 발전에 대해서 알아보도록 하겠습니다. 안녕하세요.
안녕하세요.
Yes. Hello, Mayor. How are you?
Very well.
Thank you for having us. So we have few interview questions that we would like to ask you today. Okay, here it goes. Tell us about your responsibilities as the mayor of Mukilteo and what your position entails.
Well, being the mayor is sort of like being the CEO of the city. So we've got our public safety, police and fire departments, public works, and that's the streets and the pipes underground, and all of our parks and facilities, the Parks and Recreation Department, and then all of the kind of planning and engineering and finance, and all of those departments are things that the city's responsible for, and I'm signed up to be at the sort of the top of the heap in that, and so taking care of all those services, and also being a face in the community for the city organization. So visiting with kids in the community and community members and organizations, and just being out and about, and that's definitely a part of the job too. So.
Okay. How did you become involved in government leadership?
Well, the story that I like to tell starts when I was in elementary school, and a lot of the Harbor Point development was happening, and my parents they got involved as people who were concerned about sort of how the growth was happening, and how the trees and streams and habitat and fish were kind of being considered and taken care of. So they did that for a few years, and I really learned from them that government has an important role to play in our lives, and that speaking up and having your voice be heard is an important thing to do. I didn't study politics, or was not on student council, or didn't do anything really with that interest until after I finished college and moved back to Mukilteo. And then, like I said, I think government plays an important role, so I decided to pay attention to our city council and decided that I could probably do that job just as well. And so I ran for city council in 2003. I was on the council for about 10 years, and through that grew to have an interest in doing a little bit more, kind of being more involved in the day-to-day and the administration of the city organization rather than just the policy-making side.
What are some projects currently being undertaken to improve the quality of life for the residents of Mukilteo?
Well, there are some exciting ones this year, and then big projects next year and in the coming years. So right now, we just did a paving project, so improving the surface of our roads in a lot of our neighborhoods in the middle of Mukilteo. And then next year, and we're starting work on this now on a couple big road projects, so building the Harbor Reach corridor, which is going to connect a couple neighborhoods, Beverly Park Road and Harbor Point. It'll provide a way for people to maybe not have to use the speedway to get through the community, and it'll be a much safer place to walk and bike, and connect those neighborhoods and connect kids to our schools, and a lot of things that are in the Harbor Point area, the library and the YMCA, and soon to be the Boys and Girls Club as well. And then, of course, the waterfront redevelopment. So the State Ferry will start their construction at the end of this year. And in a couple years, just at the beginning of 2020, they'll be relocated. And that improves our quality of life because it's really going to open up Mukilteo's waterfront to our residents and to visitors. So some more restaurants and shops and things to visit on the waterfront, some more opportunities to access the beach and the water and appreciate that.
Yeah, it's a beautiful area.
Yeah.
Good. How have you utilized your expertise in community planning while serving as the mayor of Mukilteo?
Well, I think I have a master's degree from University of Washington in urban planning, and to me that kind of gives me a lens that I look at our city work through. So thinking long term and really valuing the importance of creating a plan and setting a path out, and looking at things holistically rather than just wanting to do a project or kind of respond to the first complaint. I think it's really important to look at the big picture and think long term. I think that's sort of how that's impacted my work as mayor.
Tell us about your long-term vision for Mukilteo's economic development.
Well, right now, I think it's obvious that most people would think that we are really dependent on the aerospace industry, and that's true. There's a lot of aerospace suppliers in Mukilteo, and it's an important asset to be close to the Painfield, Boeing economic sector. I think that diversifying that in those businesses and that in our economic development is also really important. And so that's those kind of manufacturing and light industrial businesses, and also our service-related businesses, so the restaurants and shops and things like that that make up mostly Harbor Point, but when you think about that waterfront redevelopment, that's another chance for growth in a way that fits our community. I've been visiting with some of our bigger employers over the last year or so, and a great example of that, RB Machines, they're in Harbor Point, and they started as a supplier to Boeing, and they do a really great job at that. They get Supplier of the Year awards all the time and are among the best nationwide at delivering good products to Boeing. But they also serve other industries. They've taken the techniques that they have and the expertise and ensured that they're able to withstand any ups and downs in the aerospace market, and also work with other companies in other sectors. I think that's a good example of what a good future for economic development would be for Mukilteo.
You have a page on the City of Mukilteo's website called Mayor's Action Agenda that outlines the goals and priorities the city is working towards. Can you elaborate on the most important aspects of the Mayor's Action Agenda?
Well, to me, the Action Agenda is something I've presented each year since I've been mayor as a way to identify the priorities that I have and also to bring some light and attention on them as well. A couple that I think are important this year, we have a focus on emergency preparedness. So we did some classes and education for residents so they can learn how to be prepared in the event of emergency, how to connect with their neighbors, and have the kind of communication that they would need to be responsive in the event that our public safety personnel can't get to them. We also this year have a focus on our efforts to be Mukilteo strong, and I think a really fun activity that happened with that to build those relationships in the community was our first ever police youth academy. So we had 16 high school kids who came together for really like a day camp over a week in the summer, but a way cooler day camp than most. So they got to work with the canine dog from Edmonds and see some of the SWAT equipment and really experience a lot of police work, and also have some education about issues that are facing them as high school kids. I got to go to their graduation, and they were pretty excited about their experience. And so I'm looking forward to continuing that in the future, and educating those kids, and also just connecting them with our officers, giving them a face, and that kind of community policing connection is important.
Tell us about your civic and community involvement outside of your position as mayor.
Sure. So I serve on a couple of boards, one connected to the city and one as outside volunteer work. So I'm on the board of Domestic Violence Services of Snohomish County. They run a shelter for victims of domestic violence that serves the entire county. And then they also provide other services too. So it's not just that emergency housing, but also the legal and advocacy services and things that victims need. And domestic violence is an issue I talked about during my campaign in my first year as mayor. I think when you look at a relatively affluent community like Mukilteo, some people might think that that's not something that we should be worried about here, but it's not true. That's a crime that can impact anybody of no matter their income or age or where they live. And so I'm proud to serve on the board of DVS and participate in ensuring they're providing those good services, and also to make sure that Mukilteo has the resources we need to do our part as well. I'm also on the board of Community Transit. I'm currently the secretary of the board, and so which means kind of serving in leadership on the community transit board. I think transportation alternatives are really important, having options for people. Not everybody can take the bus or walk or bike to work, but it's good to have the options for those who can. It helps everybody who's on the road. So I'm happy to serve on community transit board as well.
It's like you're very busy.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I mentioned community involvement. I definitely get out and about and went to a bunch of elementary schools this year for their Read Across America Day. Got to meet some second graders. We welcome Girl Scouts and Boy Scout troops to City Hall all the time to give them a tour and talk about these same things, to let them know what it means to be a mayor and the role of government, and hopefully give them the idea that maybe they could pursue this path someday if they wanted and be inspired to lead.
Yes, yeah, you're true inspiration. Well, thank you so much. The question that I have, that's all for today.
All right.
Thank you for having us and letting us in your City Hall. It's a lovely area. Thank you so much, Mayor.
Thank you.
Pleasure having you interviewing us. Okay, thank you.